here I start the presentation. And I know some of you already know about AI, maybe not the entire thing, but at least you've heard of appreciative inquiry. Garima has been using it for quite some time in Sanjeevni. And you've heard Vasu talk about appreciative inquiry in change management just for a few minutes. So today, what we are going to do is introduce you to appreciative inquiry. Um, just for you to experience it, because for me, if you ask me how I have learned appreciative inquiry, I have learned appreciative inquiry, but I have learned it more when I have lived it, when I have practiced it, and when I have seen the results in my own life. So what Vasu and I are going to do with you is just give you a glimpse of what is appreciative inquiry, get you to experience it through your own personal stories, and then we will look at the theory behind appreciative inquiry. That's how the session is going to run. Okay. So for appreciative inquiry, I think it is good to first hear the practitioners themselves. So I would ask Vasu. So there are three stories we are going to listen to. So Vasu being my mentor, she is going to go first, then it's me, and then there is Shweta today. Okay, so those three stories, you will get to a glimpse of AI in the stories. So yeah, so that's how we are going to start.
Um, so for me, appreciative inquiry is has pretty much become a way of life. And I'm just going to cover it very briefly. And I do need to keep a track of time because I can go on and on about how it has changed my life. Um, but at some point, like Jess said, first I learned it. This was way back in the year 2000 when I first kind of was introduced to this concept, and we saw the power of it in action as doctors in the work that we were doing. But what really, I think the two big things, that just two things I want to highlight today about it and what it means. So it's not just about appreciation, and we'll talk about the definition more, but really having that lens of saying what is there to value, what can I really, appreciation as in valuing, in what is there to love, what is there to grow in this relationship. And I want to talk about two relationships where it has made a big difference to me. The first one being my husband. And so I it brought us together. So this is the work that brought us together. So it's really very special for us, because at some point we realized that this is what we love to do, and it's about growing what you love to do more. So can we get our energy? Look at what gives us life, what gives me energy, what makes me want to, what really gives me happiness, and what can I do to have more of that in my life, is one way of looking at it. And at one point, Shankar and me, Shankar being the husband, we actually said we were already doing a lot of this work together, and we realized how much we just loved being together, and that it finally just made sense to create a life together. And it's been, I think, one of the most powerful decisions. It was not an easy decision, and that's the other thing I think is important to recognize about AI, that it brings very powerfully to your notice what gives you life, and therefore what might be your path forward. But it can also make you take some very tough decisions. So it's not about sweeping what's not working under the carpet, but it actually gives you the energy to confront what is not working and work through it. And we did have to work through it. And I like to say this and joke about it, but it is true. But like all movies end at the and they lived happily ever after. But it's then when the real story begins. And AI is something that's helped me, because, of course, there are times when one is very frustrated and saying, you get really upset with your partner and things are not working, or small habits that bug you after a point of time, which never bugged you earlier because you were so much in love. Um, but at that point, I keep asking myself, why did I fall in love with him? And has that changed? And that hasn't changed. And to keep that view and that lens going, saying, but this is what attracted me, and this is what is still there, and this is why I am here, really helps me. I think it helps in just keeping that relationship precious. And that's one story. And another one, I'll really tell it even in more short, is with my son. And it's been a very difficult relationship there. He's very different from all of us. You know, we are, I feel, we're very high achievers, the rest of our family, including his older sister. And he's always struggled in academics. And so it was constantly fraught, because you as a mother want to do your best for him, and you also, I feel I'm being not responsible as a mother if I'm not constantly pushing him, and it was not working one bit. Till one day he turned around and said, Ma, can you just accept? This was when he was quite old. And he had suffered, poor fellow, I think because of all of us. And he said, can you just accept that I'm different? And that kind of just hit home. And I said, yeah, can I just accept that he's different and value him for that difference that he brings? He's an artist, he's an extremely sensitive person, he's such a good person at heart. And why am I constantly worried about, but how will he look after himself and earn his living and all that? Just it will take care of it. I think that was the beginning of the shift in our relationship, and also a change in how he has grown as a person. So keeping that focus for him is also extremely important, because it is challenging with him. But I keep having to remind myself, but what is there to love? What is there to really value in him? And can I keep that my primary focus and not what's wrong? Because there are many things that I see are not okay, because I have a different perspective of life.
Yeah.
So that's my story.
Thank you for sharing that, Vasu. Um, and Vasu has shared about her relationship in personal life, with her husband and son. I'm going to share about my work relationship. This was year 2012 when I was working with Vasu for 7 years. And then Vasu decided to become a consultant. So now I had a new supervisor. And it was difficult at first because she had a very, very a different way of approaching work, and my way was very different. And at that point, I was thinking, should I quit the organization? Then, my inner voice told me, hey, come on, you work with appreciative inquiry. Can't you work with this relationship in a way which is enriching for both of you? That was the question. And I said, let me give it a shot. So that was the time I started observing my supervisor, seeing that what is common between me and her. I said, let's see first what is common between both of us. From there, we can see and work out the differences. So I saw that she was very, very, she wanted organizational growth, and she also wanted people to grow in the organization. I said, these are something that I also believe in. So these are some things common between me and her. And I also realized in my conversations with her that she was always focused on evidence. If you're going to do a certain thing, what is the evidence behind it? So she would be very, very focused on the tangible. So then I realized, okay, let me see, how do I work with her now? So then what I did was I took the Clifton Strengths Finders test, and I got my test results. And I went to her and I said, you know what, this is my report. This will help you understand me better. And then she said, hold on, you've taken your test. Let me take mine. Let me see, what is it about me? So she went on and did her Clifton Strengths Finders, because that's the way she was structured. So then she took her report, and both of us sat. I remember that conversation happening for 2 hours. Both of us sitting, reading out the reports, understanding where each one is coming from, because her strength lay in execution, while mine were more into relationships and the other buckets. So we sat through, and that conversation, I think, at the end of it, she just hugged me. She said, what a beautiful way of bringing these reports and us sharing. So then, we discuss what she can help me with, what I can help her with. So that was beautiful. And then from then on, our conversations became more like building trust and trying to understand each other. It was not that whether she was right or I was right. It was not a conversation about rights and wrongs. It was a conversation about holding perspectives. What was her perspective of looking at things and what was mine? And we would look at both with a very, non-judgmental eye. Then we would say, okay, this is what is going to work. And then, we would work with that. And I remember 2 years before when I resigned, when I wanted to not work as a consultant. And then I said, I would like to leave Sneha now. She had tears in her eyes. She said, no, if you want to give less time, but don't quit. I would not like you to leave us. And that was something, that's where our relationship had reached. And even right now, if I present a certain idea to her, she will just say, go with it. I said, you know what? You don't even want to know why I want to do this. She said, no, I think you've earned that trust with me. So I know what you're going to do is going to serve the organization well and serve the people well. So this curiosity, my curiosity about knowing her, wanting to know her at a human level, wanting to know what drives her, and having those conversations centered around that, I think that was really beautiful. And today, when I think of that relationship, I don't know whether I'm at Sneha or no. That relationship is going to be there for life, like it has been with Vasu. I think that was, I think it was beautiful. I mean, it is still beautiful. Uh, so, an openness and curiosity and getting to know and exploring what drives her. I think those are the things that made a difference.
I really want to appreciate what you had put it in the chat box also. And I mean, I was part of those conversations earlier when you were so frustrated and how you then managed to turn around this relationship.
Yeah.
And I think that's the beauty of appreciative inquiry and having that perspective and lens, which is really about what is there to love in this person, what is there to value in this person, and who doesn't like. We are all thirsting for that. We're all, if somebody is willing to see us in that way for who we are, what we stand for, I think that's the biggest gift we can give anyone, to see them for who they truly are and just accept that and value that. I really think that's an incredible gift to give. So, yeah. So we have one more story.
Yeah. We have Swati coming in.
Okay. Wow, those were really amazing stories. And both, I mean, I started making notes actually of what both of you were saying, because I think that's so powerful and so meaningful of what you're sharing. There are challenges that actually I have, in my current context, that I think, Jaya, what you've said and Vasu, what you've said, I can like directly go there and apply it. So that's there. My story is actually my relationship with my inner critic. So it's got nothing to do with anybody outside, but it's my inner critic. I think I've had if there's the longest relationship that I've had with anything, it's with my inner critic, right? So it's been a relationship where I have been really afraid of my inner critic, and I've had so much of a resentment against my inner critic, not realizing that I'm actually turning all these emotions inwards and I'm turning them towards me. And when Vasu asked that question as to what is there to love, and I remember eons and eons of long swaths of years that I have spent where I would come back with nothing, right, with that answer, because that inner critic would constantly be telling, but isme kya acha hai, right? I mean, there are these dialogues that would happen where there would be a meek, feeble attempt to say, "Nahi, lekin ye to kuch theek hua tha." And then the inner critic would come back with like so much of sass, telling me like, "Ha, balls." Sorry. So, so I guess I think my journey on this appreciative inquiry started when I read somewhere, when I read about this thing about self-love. It said that if you can't, you have to start with the space where you have to say you're willing. Okay. So are you willing to love yourself? And I think that's the starting point. And that's where it begins. And I latched onto that with everything I could. And I think, so many things happened, but maybe let me just share with you where I am today. So right now I have enough sass to bring into this relationship with my inner critic, whenever like this, I call her Miss X. She has a name. And when every time like she starts to talk to me, I'm like, excuse me, पहले I love you बोलो. तो मैं उससे I love you बुलवाती हूँ. और मेरी जितनी मर्जी होती है उतनी बार बुलवाती हूँ कि अभी एक बार और बोल. ठीक है. And I was like, just like last week or the week before, I was working on this document that I was kind of nervous about, right? And I suddenly like realized that, you know, ये voice चल रही है side में, वैसे देखा नहीं, ये भी नहीं किया, ये भी ठीक नहीं है, ये भी ठीक नहीं है. And I stopped. I said, पहले I love you बोलो. So then अच्छा 2 बार I love you बोला. उसके बाद then said, अच्छा अब इसमें मेरे को 3 चीजें बताओ जो मैंने डॉक्यूमेंट में अच्छी करी है. And actually, like literally, I realized how obedient my inner critic was at that point of time. And I was like, how come I never discovered this, right? And it actually told me 3 things that I had really, really done well in that document, right? So I think maybe the sum and substance of this is that I think appreciative inquiry is such a powerful, powerful thing, right? And it's not just about, you know, your relationship with what's happening outside of you, but I think the love that we can give ourselves is the love then turns out and can go out from us to others. So I think that's what I wanted to just share with everyone else.
Thank you.
Awesome, lovely.
Awesome. Lovely story. Yeah.
And that was, I think that was also our agenda, to get you 3 types of stories and different places where you can see this in action with relationships, with this work, personal relationships, work, and with yourself. I love your relationship with your inner critic, Swati. Pehle I love you bolo.
That's really beautiful.
Okay. So now let's discover our own stories.
Yes. So before that, Vasu, just for a minute, I'll share this. What is it to appreciate? Okay, this is very, very powerful. So like Vasu said, what does it mean to value? To value means to discover the potential, just to celebrate the uniqueness and exceptionality. So what are people best at? You know, and what are they? Who are they as people? And what is it about the situation also around us which has to be valued? So it operates from a lens of curiosity. And also, when we talk about individuals, like Vasu shared about her relationship with her son, it's about appreciating who people are, not just what they do. So it's a deep, deep commitment to connect with people and value them. And what does it mean to inquire? To inquire actually means to explore or to discover in such a way so that you can see what is the possibility in this particular person, what is the possibility in this situation, instead of looking at the problems. Yes, Vasu, now we can go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to add one line because you triggered me when you said that. And we speak so much of Anushasan, and this is also an Anushasan, but it is an Anushasan in wanting to wear that lens of what is there to value in this, what is there to appreciate, what can I love here. So because it's so easy to do the other way, we've all been, that's the regular training. So to have the discipline to also look at this part of the story is really is important. And I always love the quote, I quote it everywhere, the quote from The Little Prince, if you all have read that storybook. Where he says, if you haven't, please go and read it. It's one of the most beautiful stories ever written. And it says, oh, but the eyes are blind and you must learn to see with the heart. So that's what it is, listening with your heart. Okay, now let's go ahead.
Yes.
And that's go ahead. Yeah. So it might seem a little artificial to begin with, but you'll be surprised how easy it becomes, this way of looking at the world.
Is there a particular prompt that we should follow in the sharing? I've created the rooms.
Okay. Yeah, Jaya, can you share the slide?
Yeah. I've shared the slide. Can you see it?
No.
Oh. Okay.
Actually, मैंने बीच में stop किया था आपका.
अच्छा. Okay. मैं वापस से share कर देती हूँ. Yeah. Yes. Can you see it now? Yeah. So this is what you're going to do when you enter the breakout room.
Full screen करोगे जया?
हाँ, तो ये दिख रहा है सबको? Okay. So this is what you need to do. So talk about a time when you felt very healthy, absolutely alive, maybe full of energy. What was it about this time? How did it begin? What happened? How did you feel? What did you do? And who were you when this is being stit in your swar? So who were you at that point? Who were the others who were involved? Tell the entire story. Live the moment again. You could talk about a time in your Sanjeevani journey or in your life in general. Listen with your heart. What draws you? What calls out to you in that story? Did anything change about your perspective? Share that back with the person who's telling the story. This is what we would like you to do in your breakout rooms.
So before they go in the breakout room, Jaya, maybe everybody can take a few moments to go to kind of get the story, so that when you go in the breakout room, you can be ready with the story. So yeah, just think of a time in your life when you felt healthy, absolutely alive, full of energy, any of the words that call you, and remember that time. And it's about you. It's not about when somebody called you healthy or somebody said you were full of energy. It's just what you felt. It could be very, very small incident. It could be a really big incident. That doesn't matter. It's how you felt.
Okay. And also, it's important to not share it like an incident. Ki ye hua, ye hua, ye hua. You have to bring your heart, your emotions. So how did you feel? What did you do? What happened? It's like an entire story. So that, the person listening to you has an image of what you're talking about. I think that's very important.
Yeah, just live it again. As you're telling it, live that time again. You can enjoy it one more time. So why not?
Yes.
Okay. I don't have I can't see breakout rooms.
I'm just opening up the room. So we'll have around 15 minutes, so 5 minutes per person. I'll open the rooms now.
Yeah. And then share back with the person what you're hearing, what stands out for you. When the person has told the story, just share it back. And then invite another person to tell the story. So not, हाँ अभी तुम्हारा number, but प्यार से मुझे आपकी कहानी सुननी है types.
Super. So the rooms are open. Vasundhara, Jai, you can step out of those rooms. You by default been assigned a room.
Okay.
Yeah, we might hop in just to eavesdrop.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good.
Party now. That's where we are getting into next. Hey, everybody's back.
We need a few minutes few seconds rather, to give a feedback to Monica.
Well, why don't you do that in the big room?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. So that's why I took the liberty to kind of say that. Monica, I'm not able to see her on the screen.
Yeah, and it's not really feedback. No,
I think her name is called Varsha, but it's Monica.
Oh, okay. All right. So what came to
when
me?
we just lost her. Sorry, she was there just now, but we just lost her.
Okay, maybe you can just type it out so that it'll be there written for her to see.
Yes.
No, I'm not sure she can see it once she comes in anyway.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, there she is.
She's back.
Good.
Yeah. Okay. Hi, Varsha.
Okay, now we've lost Sita, I think.
No, I'm very much here. Monica.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes, Sita, 2 minutes, headline. We have to learn the headline.
Yeah, Monica is here. Sita, you can speak.
Yeah. Okay. So I just wanted to tell Monica that I see that bubbly, youthful child, childlike, and a lovely sense of humor and a complete kind of powerhouse within her. Yeah, that's what I saw in her, and that's what is drawing me to you in that sense. Yes.
That's the headline for Monica. You are a powerhouse.
I know. I think that's true. We all see that every day morning.
Yeah, every day morning. Yeah, she's a bundle of powerhouse. Okay, everybody is there. Should I share the slide then for Apna Iska? Okay. Yeah, there you go. Okay. What's happening? Yeah. So now that you've heard each other's stories and you have seen, who people are and what they do, in their when they felt alive, healthy, whatever examples that you all heard from people. So appreciative inquiry there are 5 principles on which the whole process is based. So let's look at these principles one by one. So this is the principle of social construction. Words create worlds. So any of you would like to share about this in your experience of listening to stories? What did it show up for you? What did this principle show up as?
Garima, can you so one can have a gallery view actually for this session?
Can you see the gallery view now?
No.
No, should I stop the sharing then?
Oh yeah, you have to stop the sharing for
remove
that.
the spotlight, maybe with
Okay.
that.
So
If you want a gallery view, yes, then stop the sharing.
Yeah.
Oh. No, you can see the spotlight is, no, anyway, forget it. Let's not waste time.
Okay.
So, you know what, Jaya, I don't know if this is the right thing, but what I saw in the stories that were shared in our room were that, the words that people were saying to themselves were like, I want to do this, I can do this, I so want this, like the kind of focus and energy. I remember one of the people said that, I just want to dance.
Okay.
And I am going to dance irrespective, right? And whether it was a public place or not didn't matter. But I think that's what's, I mean, I don't know if that's really a related example, but that's coming to me right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So actually talking about intention. So when you talk about intentions, they are going to happen. They're going to manifest. Okay. That's one thing. Okay. Anyone else? How did you see this principle lived? Anything that comes to you when you talk about, when you experience words create worlds?
Can I share, Jaya?
Yeah.
So I see it in both ways in that sense,
Okay.
Of course, we're talking about appreciative inquiry, but just to go back sometimes in the past when I listen to people, they kind of say that, oh, you're very accommodating and you're very considerate. The more you keep saying it, it becomes like the belief that, yes, I am this.
Yeah.
And you start that kind of being comes into you. Then you become accommodative and you become very considerate, whether it just becomes that because you keep listening to those words.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Vasu, please.
No, I was just saying that that's very much like words create our reality. The social construction is created by, and what you say is also called a life sentence. It becomes your life sentence. You just have to live it like that.
Yeah.
And it's both so-called positive and negative, but the point is you get trapped into that way of being. So then you don't have flexibility. So just paying attention to our words becomes important.
And then I've seen it happening with children because children internalize everything that is said to them. If a parent tells the child you're lazy, the child internalizes the laziness and he becomes it because that has come into his way of being. So I think that's the relationship words have with people, and that's how, we need to be aware.
What judgments, what labels are we using for ourselves? And when we speak to other people, what are the labels we are using for them? If we can start paying attention to that, we can actually change the construction. And it is possible to change. I'm just going to spend a little time on this. I spoke about my son, but with my daughter, for instance, one of the things with her was, I used to always call her so stubborn. She was all of 13 and she was very stubborn. And I still would say she was very stubborn. From the time she was 1 year old, she would decide what she wants to wear. I couldn't change it for her, come what may. but that wasn't helping me seeing her as stubborn. And then at some point, I suddenly realized, and then appreciative inquiry came into my life when she was about 13 years old. And I said, but what do I want for my daughter? I want her to be able to stand up to the world. I want her to not give into social pressure and do what she believes is right. And so can I just see this as determination, that what she has. And the minute I did that, it just shifted how I saw what she was being. So even if she was being stubborn, I could dialogue with her, because now I'm seeing it as determination and not as, because stubbornness creates this energy. But determination is, I can appreciate determination, I value. And for every label we have, we can find out what is there to value and what is the other word we can substitute this word with, which will shift that relationship. And every word will have that.
Yeah. So true. So let's move to the second principle. I can't show the slide now because once I show
typing it, share it in the chat box if that helps.
Oh yeah. So principle 2 is
Can I ask a question, Jaya and
yes.
Vasundhara, for the first one, or we're running out of time?
Maybe we can do just 2 or 3 principles. It's okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, so if you want to ask, I think it's nice to understand what is discussed fully. So Aditya, go ahead.
No, let's finish full, then maybe I'll get answer in next one, maybe. We don't know.
Okay. So the next principle is simultaneity principle, which means that, questions and change, they are simultaneous. The moment you ask a question, change happens. So that is so true of all the research that we do, because the moment you ask a question, there is an outcome to that question. So it is important, like what kind of questions are you asking? Okay, so that is what this principle is all about. Yeah. So for instance, the question that we asked you is, talk about a time when you felt very healthy, very alive. We didn't ask you to talk of a time when you were unhealthy, when you're not alive, when you're not energetic. So because we know the moment we ask a question, there is a shift which will definitely happen. So the power lies in the question you're asking. So that is what this principle is all about.
So again, just from the stories you heard, is there anything that comes alive for you to share about this principle and which relates to this principle? Or from your own experience of this question and how you relate to it? We'd really love to hear your stories.
Yes. For instance, I'll just share. So when I get into any new relationship, it's a friendship or something, I will just look at what is there to celebrate here. What is there to celebrate about this person? So that's a question I ask myself. So it's about looking at the uniqueness and celebrating that. So that's what gives me energy. So I would like to ask you, what is the question that you ask yourself or of the other people? Or of your situation?
I experience as an extension of the first one, which is words create worlds, and therefore even a question is a word. Like what is working well and what is not working well are just both words. They're going to create their own reality. What was interesting for me to watch, like even in our sharing with both of myself and my partner, while we were sharing the healthy part, the unhealthy ka story internally already aane lag jata hai.
Okay.
That self-judgment, that was that one time, abhi to nahi hai, ye to, so also just think in that moment, what do I choose to give energy to? Because that part is anyway so active. It's always, it's always sort of criticizing. So.
Right.
So just to give this principle more clarity, I'm hoping. So for instance, when Shankar always tells a story, my husband. So he says that when he would come home from school and, he would get 98 out of 100. And he's very proud of himself that I got 98 out of 100. He's quite a bright chappy. And the first question his mother would ask was, what happened to the other two marks? completely shifts the energy, it shifts the joy and the celebration, because now you're starting to focus on what's wrong and not focus on what's right. And so how are we, so what are the question, it's simultaneous, the question and the way the direction of the inquiry gets decided by the question itself. So what do we want? So always when we're framing the question, we may as well ask the question in the direction of what we want more of, not what we want less of. Because it will happen. If what you want less of is the question you ask, what you pay attention to grows. You have to pay attention to what you want less of. So why not ask the questions to what you want more of? So yeah, wow, you got 98%. How did you do that? What did you do so well? How did you succeed? You never address those 2 marks if they're so important to you. But from this place of strength, so now what can you do from here to make sure you get 100%? But I wouldn't do that. But if you're very, very much that kind of parent who wants 100%, you could possibly do that. But asking the questions in the direction of what you want to manifest.
Okay, I have a story that I had read about. Can I share it?
Quickly, yes.
Yes, yes. So there was this scientist who was very successful and very creative in whatever he did. So he was asked, what makes you different from the others? So he said, my mother, like once he just shared an incident. Once I dropped a glass jar and it was a good mess. So my mother could have whipped me for it. Instead, he told me, okay, how do you want to clean this up? Do I bring the sponge or he gave him options. How do we clean it up? And the second best thing she did was, she told him, okay, you're going to lift the jar and put it in the fridge yourself, but I'll show you how to do it so that it doesn't break. So, that is even, I realized that I need to do that as a parent to my son. Teach them how to do it the right way. And if they make a mess, help them clean it up instead of, telling them, kya kar diya, you don't know anything. That can make a hell out of difference in a child's life, ask the right questions, help them out with their.
Inquiry and change are simultaneous. That's the bottom. So inquiry and the change are happening in the same moment. Not that I ask the question now and the change will happen 2 days later. Which is why all research is inherently flawed, but that's a different story. They can be research. Not human, not social research, maybe.
What actually I am reflecting on is that both of these principles in different words, different ways, my mother has been actually drilling into us from a long time. Whether it is as simple as, within relationships or in office, which has actually served me very well. She didn't tell it to me for office, but for relationships, saying that whatever the other person is like, always try to find that one thing that is good that actually, makes you feel, makes them look up in your eyes. So automatically everything that they do, you will see it in a positive light. And that has actually really worked well in relationships and in work for us. And similarly for this, the one thing that she'll keep drilling on us is, especially when talking to a child, it'll be like, there is no point in stating anything negative, because then the focus goes there, whether it's a statement or a question. Phrase it positively. Instead of saying, don't do this, say, do this. And then the focus is on actually the act that you need to do versus the instant reaction, which is don't do that. Like instead, just focus the attention to what you need to do. Practice is a different question altogether on the second one, but this has been something that she's been drilling into us quite for a long time.
This is so beautiful, because what you want, what you intend is what will manifest. And that's
so one of the most confident friends I know, uske na 50% se zyada zindagi mein number nahi aaye. The only difference was कि जब उसको 55 या 56% आया था हाई स्कूल में, तो उसको उसके नाना जी ने सोना दिया था और गांव में ढेर सारी जमीन दी थी, because his nana ji was so thrilled at the fact that my grandson passed, and so he is so confident, and it just does not matter to him what happened in academics and everything. And I was the first time he told me the story, and I asked him, "Tum itne confident kyun ho? What makes you that confident?" And I think he just narrated this one incident, and I realized what an impact that has kind of left at him, when maybe he was expecting, "Arey log kya bolenge, just 56%." Then the whole family celebrated. Like he went to his village and everybody celebrated, and there were so many guests, and it was almost a feast. And So
And
yeah, makes a difference.
and even as you're telling the story, I'm like, okay, this is challenging. You're 56 to celebrate, and it is, no, I mean, it is. That's the discipline. Can we appreciate what is, and then see what more we want? So, I know we're running out of time, so I'm just going to maybe Jaya, we can just show the other principles, and maybe, I don't know. Always this is like at least a 3-day workshop, honestly. But the point is, so I just want to make this one thing clear. So when you say appreciative inquiry, what we're saying is, what we did, we listened to the whole story. And in that story, there will be what is there to value. There may be some things you don't like. There may be some things that didn't work. But it is making a choice about where you want to put your attention. And therefore, it is making an intentional choice to pay attention to what gives me life, to what is there to value, what is there to appreciate, and grow that. In the relationship, there are 100 things you don't like. But where do I put my attention? What do I pay? That is what one focuses on.
And also that gives us the energy to look at what's not working, to make a choice whether we would want to work with that or not work. I think that's also something which I have seen in myself. So I'll quickly go over the rest. One is the poetic principle, meaning that, there are multiple realities to a situation. Like, for instance, I was looking at the Telegram chats on vaccination. All the participants had multiple views on vaccination, Ayurved karna hai, allopathic karna hai, kaise karna hai, kya. So it was thrilling for me to see those multiple perspectives. So that is what the poetic principle says, that there's no one right, there's no one wrong, or there's nothing in the realm of rights and wrongs. You look at it from each one's reality. So that's what this opens up. Okay. And anticipatory is images inspire action. When Garima asked us to draw something, you remember, I don't know whether it was in the second session, and I drew this little girl with love all over her body and into the world. So that is what I am manifesting, because that is something which I have created, and that is what has come up from inside me. So I am living that. So our images, if they create that energy for our action. So if the images are positive, they create a purpose in our life, that is where we are going to move. That's anticipatory. And the last one is heliotropic. Heliotropic is, helios means light, and tropic is movement. So we move towards what gives us energy. And I have seen this in people. Some people are so drawn to what is not working. Every day they complain. Office mein aate saath complaint shuru ho jata. This is not nice, that's not nice, right from the chai to everything else, So they kind of derive their energy from complaining, from blaming, those kinds, from those kinds of things. And there are some people who start the day with, wow, yeah, what a smile that person gave me. That was so beautiful. That hug was so precious. Oh, that little help that you provided me was really helpful. So some people go with that kind of energy. So we here have a choice. What are we drawn to? Because human beings, I think, naturally are drawn to energies. So what kind of energy draws us is what we need to, kind of look at. And one of the things that I have seen in me is when I find somebody very negative, always drawn to things which are not working, always complaining, I kind of withdraw myself, because I just don't like that energy. So I move towards something which gives me more life, which makes me so alive as a person. So that is what this principle is about. So
I would also want to add one more thing to your topic, which is that at least, one is to notice what gives you energy. That's I think what Jaya, you're saying. So to become aware of what gives you energy and therefore become more intentional about that. But when you're working with somebody else, and suppose somebody is really supposedly negative, but that's what gives them energy. Like some people thrive, like revenge. Revenge gives so much energy. All our Hindi movies are full of how revenge drives people. We have to, but if that's what gives them energy, then that's our starting point of working with them. Saying, okay, this is what gives you energy. So one does not negate anything because it doesn't match with my value system. But I say, okay, if this is what gives you energy, then what is beneath that? Why is it giving you so much energy? And can we explore that and find the value beneath that revenge, and then help them to explore that value and grow that value, because values and needs are always very valid and very okay.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
to use what gives energy to go deeper, because there's no point telling somebody this is wrong. That's very unappreciative. So we are saying, find out what is there to even appreciate in that need for anger, that need for revenge. Iske piche kya hai? And then that's your entry point. Because if you go in with that mindset that I want to see what is there to love even in this horrible person, you will find something. And that will change relationships. People have worked with prisons, people have worked with, hardened criminals, because you're willing to connect with what's beneath. Okay, I think we need to close now.
So,
I think,
Vasu, maybe now I can ask my question. So regarding the words and all of this, I can frame it better now. So what I have seen is, how do you know somebody is saying something truthfully or fakely? And as simple as, like in Australia, they have this, for every small or big thing, they'll say thank you or sorry. And first time you like it, and then you get irritated. कि यार बस हिल गया तो भी sorry, ये हुआ तो भी thank you. मतलब then I don't know. Sometimes and then कुछ लोग, when you expect them to say sorry or thank you, they don't say it. So somebody not saying the word that you expect, that also somehow disturbs you. I know we have to handle our own self and all, but there is the other side of it also. That's what I wanted to ask. Somebody not saying the words that you want, or you not saying the word that they want, that creates the mess.
Yeah, and actually, so if you see the way AI works, it always starts with a dialogue. But if you can actually sit down and try and understand, that is one way of doing it. But if you have to manage on your own, then I would look at, this, what you said about Australian culture. I've visited Australia. I find it even more in American culture, so it does irritate you even more there. But I think the way I've looked at it is saying this is their culture, this is how they are, and this is what they value. And this is what makes their society run in the way it does. So who am I to judge whether this is just superficial or fake or whatever? But this is how their society works. I'm the outsider here. So if it doesn't work for me, it doesn't make it wrong. You may choose to do it or not do it, but can I appreciate that their society is running on that? Those are the.
As a matter of fact, as you rightly said, Vasu, it's more so in American culture, and some folks do have that this thing. But my son is going to school, and actually he's picking that up. The way I choose to look at that was that it's actually something good for us to learn. My husband and I talked, saying that we actually don't, and it's like appreciative inquiry, right? It feels forced when you first say it, saying that, thank you for passing the curry on the table, or thank you for cooking food, or oh, sorry, I stubbed your toe, right? But later it realizes that it creates an aura of saying all nice things and having that smile on your face when you actually say that. It automatically switches the mood. So yes, it might feel forced a little bit, or irritating, but once you actually adopt it, it actually starts feeling very nice. Of course, it matters how much heartfelt you say it versus just saying it, but over a period of time, that heartfeltness automatically comes out, is what I have seen.
I think you've hit the nail on the head, Priya, that you do what feels genuine for you. That's important. That genuineness is important. If it doesn't feel genuine, then you might want to just, and that's a different story. But I think recognizing why you're doing it is also important.
And maybe being able to sort of see, if they've chosen to do something, it must be benefiting them in something. They value it for a reason. There is something there, right? Like the example of someone being driven and being energized by revenge, if you can see underneath the surface as to what's really, without the label of good and bad, but just kind of seeing what's driving that. That's what came to me.
I heard this very beautiful line, and I always remember it. So I'm going to maybe can just say it to that different is different. Different is not wrong.
Okay.
I think that's very powerful. And it applies at so many levels, if you really see.
uh, you know, we could continue with this, and I'm sure there'll be many, many platforms for us, our chat platforms on Telegram to continue with this. So the essence, I think, which Vasu and I started to create on Appreciative Inquiry is just to be aware of who we are as people and what drives us, what gives us life. I think that's the question I would like to leave you all with. Vasu, you want to add any parting notes? So we'll hand over to Garima now to take it forward.
I think well said, Jaya. And I don't know if you want to just share your screen. Do you have Marcel Proust's quote? We could just end with that.
Marcel Proust. Yes, yes. Okay, here I share.
Just leave it on the screen, and Garima, you can take over.
I don't know. So this is the quote. I think we love this. So it's not about the landscapes. It's having new eyes. Sure. Over to you, Garima.
Yeah,
Thanks so much.